WSOU 89.5 FM, the loudest rock. I'm Valentino, and I'm joined today with Jesse from Killswitch Engage. How you doing today, Jesse?
Yeah, good, brother. How are you?
I can't complain. I'm feeling good. There's a lot to talk about with the Killswitch Engage camp and fandom, and there's so much happening. So I'll just kick it off with new tour with August Burns Red, Light the Torch, this upcoming spring, a few weeks from now. How you feeling?
Good, excited. A little anxious about it because it's a long time coming, and it's a tour that we had to sort of reschedule because of this whole COVID disaster. I think it's going to be amazing, incredible, one for the books. It's definitely, like, as far as the history of the band goes, it'll be something that people will talk about for a long time to come. But yeah, I just want to get out there and get going, man. And I'll believe it's happening when I'm on stage singing. It's just nerve-wracking, but overall excited for sure.
And, you mentioned, like, I definitely, a one for the history books. Absolutely. You got Light the Torch with Howard Jones, the former vocalist of Killswitch. You also have August Burns Red, one of the, the most classic metalcore bands in the scene. What's it going to be like, touring with those two just really, really influential metal bands?
Yeah, it's gonna be great, man. I mean, it's all killer, no filler, and no real egos on the tour. Everyone's really down to earth, like, just good people. The unfortunate part is we're pretty much going to be staying away from each other just because, God forbid, we have to cancel this tour, cancel dates. So there won't be a lot of hangs, but I can tell you this, man, when the tour initially kicked off in 2020, it usually takes I'd say about a week and a half for bands to kind of get together and gel and hang out and get used to each other. By day two, we were all hanging out in each other's dressing rooms, like, just super friendly vibes, supporting each other. So the vibe is there. Unfortunately, we won't be hanging out so much, but I think it's going to show on stage. You got good people. You got guys that have been doing it for a long time. So, everyone's pro. Everyone has got a solid heart in their body. So it's a win-win situation. It's all killer, no filler. You're going to leave with a smile on your face and a song in your heart.
Absolutely. And, you mentioned that tour was cut short. I know so many other tours in that March 2020 era were just, completely just cut off. How are you feeling resuming this tour, with the same lineup exactly 2 years later? I feel like that's got to be almost a weird feeling because, in most music and in the music industry, bands might do a variation of a tour, but very rarely will they have to stop, wait 2 years, and then resume,
Yeah, we're very fortunate that everyone could do it. We're very fortunate that the venues, for the most part, were able to accommodate. A lot of legwork went into this. There was talk of, like, postponing it because of everything going on. And the general consensus was, let's just get out there and, like, just do what we can because we've just been waiting so long. I know the fans are frustrated. 2 years is a long time to wait and hold a ticket. And some people did. They held on to their original ticket, which is amazing. But again, just circling back to the fact that, like, you got a bunch of guys out there who love what they do, and we do it for the fans. And that's truly why we're carrying on with this and putting some of our guys in an uncomfortable position because people are nervous. We could get out there and someone could get sick and it might go sideways. But to us, it's worth that risk, because if we postpone it, we don't know if this lineup's going to work. We don't know if the venue's going to work. There's a ton of stuff that had to move around for this to happen. So this is all about the fans. That's why we're doing this and putting the tour at risk. We're just going to go out there and be as safe as we can and be as hermit-y as we can and quarantine each other and all that crap because we want this tour to happen no matter what. So it'll be worth it.
And you even said it yourself, is that there's so many different moving parts to put on this tour, all of the different venues you have to book, and not even including all the schedules of the two other bands on the bill, so you're right. It's like, we have to be as safe as we can, but we want this tour to go as smoothly as possible. We want this to be like the metalcore fans' dream, the metal fans' fantasy,
Yeah, dude, it's like, there's no way that this tour can't be good with the bands, with the vibe and with the bands. It's just, the times that we're living through, it's a huge bummer on live music. And we did it with Slipknot. We were able to pull that off. No one had to cancel. So that it can be done. It's just, you got to, like, be a hermit. I'm going to be playing a lot of Nintendo Switch. I'm going to be hiding in my bunk. Going to be going out for bike rides once we head south. But for the most part, we're not going out to eat. We're not hanging at bars. We're not doing any of that fun stuff that we usually do on tour. It's just our little bus bubble. We'll go from the dressing room to the bus. And there's going to be a lot of horror movie nights and eating, popcorn, drinking beer and hanging out with each other just to make sure that we don't mess this up. So it sucks, but you know what? It could be worse.
And it's so nice that you guys are going through all these extra precautions to really make sure that this tour goes off without a hitch, because I mean fans are hungry for it. I'm sure you saw at that Slipknot tour.
Yeah.
By the way, incredible lineup. Code Orange, Fever 333, Killswitch Engage, and Slipknot. Like absolutely one of the best lineups I've seen in the metal industry in years. And I was at that show in New Jersey, just looking at the fans. It almost felt like it was everyone's like first concert ever. And I know it obviously wasn't, because if you're in the metal community, you go to a lot of shows, but it just like it had that spark to it.
It did, yeah. And you could see that night after night, and when you're in front of like 10,000 people, you can feel that, the excitement in the air, and you can see it on people's faces, and amidst all the people have gone through, amidst all the hardships, going to a show and just letting loose and having fun. And that's what it was all about every night. I was saying that, like, hey, look around you right now. We're out. This is happening. We're here. Have fun, let loose, and that's the whole thing with the Killswitch show. Is fun. We take it very seriously, but if you come see us, be prepared to laugh a little bit, be prepared to like really enjoy yourself, have a good time. And that's what we aim for, man, especially after everything everyone's gone through. We just want people to have a good time. And that's what's going to happen. We'll make sure of it.
Absolutely. So I do kind of want to ask a little bit about how that Slipknot tour kind of came to be. Did Slipknot call you guys? Like what happened with that? Because as I was saying, that lineup is absolutely stellar. Kind of from your perspective, how did that tour start?
Yeah, those guys are they know what they're doing. I mean, they're one of the best in the business as far as putting on shows, the way that they move as a unit. It's Slipknot. They're one of the biggest metal bands in the world. So yeah, when they approached us, it's a band you don't say no to. It was perfect too on a business level, honestly, to be under the umbrella of Knotfest, to be under the umbrella of Slipknot. It just felt like we didn't have to really worry about a lot of things. We just kind of like rolled with the camp, and Slipknot took care of all the extra stuff that potentially could really stress out our crew and our management. And Slipknot took care of it, and they ran a really tight ship, which is good. When you're doing that during a pandemic, people are really worried about it. They took all the guesswork out of it. And for us, it was just a nice way to get back after 2 years, testing the waters of how this can be done. Can it be done? And I think we all came out of that, we passed with flying colors. We were able to pull it off. And a lot of that had to do with Slipknot, just the way that they ran that tour. And it kind of inspired us to like how we're moving forward with this tour. We learned a lot from that camp, what they did with, their safety measures and stuff like that. And, for me, I hate it. There's a part of me that really hates it because I love jumping in the audience. I love being face to face with fans at the bus after. To me, that's a huge part of what we do. But considering the times and the fact that you could either have a show that's like a little distant or not have a show at all, it's just a matter of like making sure that this goes forward regardless. So yeah, we learned a lot from touring with Slipknot. It was an honor. And I can't think of a better band to go out and just like get in front of people and do it again. It reminded us like, wow, we can still do this despite what's going on. So it was something I don't think any of us are going to forget. And the lineup was sick. I mean, every band had brought their own energy. Every band has so much energy, just a vibe, and they were different too, which is good. It's diverse. It wasn't just metal all the way through. You had elements of punk, elements of hardcore. It was really cool tour, man.
Absolutely. And I do love that point that you brought up about the connecting with the fans, because typically you're right. As a metal musician, you might go at the merch tent after, say hi to a few fans, or by the tour bus after, say hi. Now it's like you're still having that connection, but you got to kind of work around it almost. And I feel like if there was one thing the pandemic taught us, it's still finding that fan connection, but just doing it in different ways.
Yeah, I do my best to really make eye contact with people and even smile at them. It's something that is a Killswitch thing. Like we enjoy what we do. It's a party up there. It's fun. So I had moments, especially during the Slipknot tour, where you can tell people are not in the greatest spirits. They're going through it. You can see it on people's faces. And I'm a hyper empath, so I can read people pretty well. So I made sure to make eye contact with the audience. And at times I would just smile at people and be like, I see you. Like, we're in this together. Even though I can't get in your face and put the mic right where I want to, because I love doing that. That's the hardcore kid in me. I love that connection. You just have to do it with the eyes. I really strongly try to connect through that way. And it feeds me as well. It helps me with the show. You know, it's not just a band up there trying to like, hey, check us out, we're awesome. A good show is because of the crowd, period. So it's all about the audience. So yeah, I think we just do our best to really connect with people with our eyes and our body language. And what I say in between songs, letting people know that you're our tribe, you're our family. And that means a lot to all of us.
It is so wonderful and just so great to hear you say that, because I've talked to countless bands about this, and other people have their own term for it. I call it the circle, where it's like, the band has a lot of energy and they have a lot of emotion, and the crowd feeds off that energy and they get energetic, and the band will feed off that, and it's just this big circle of energy, where it's
Yeah.
like that back and forth. And hearing you say, it's all about the fans, so it's all about watching them kind of have like a religious experience at a concert. That's all you need.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because, you could play in a stadium in front of people who are not connecting with you and it's going to suck. You could play in a club in front of 300 people who are, every single person is singing along and like just giving their all. And that might be one of the best shows of your career. So to us, it's all about the audience. If the audience is on board with you, if they're not giving back what you're putting out, then it's not a good show. And I think that takes humility, but I also just think it takes wisdom. Like when you've been doing it as long as all of us have, you realize you're nothing without your fans, nothing. You're just a bunch of dudes trying to look cool or, trying to continue to have a career. And it's kind of pathetic. So for us, it's like, if the audience is there with us, that's everything for us.
And, I definitely think Killswitch has, more than succeeded at making, your concerts a community, not just a show. Because the first time I think I saw you guys live it might've been that Parkway Drive tour. And I remember I've been to a lot of metal shows before, but this was just unreal. This like pretty much hundreds of people are all around you, and they all know every lyric, and they all know every beat and every little snare drum beat. They're all like, they know it, and that is such a cool feeling to be a part of, because it's like you're something bigger than yourself. I mean, just from the fan perspective.
Yeah. And it's infectious, right? You leave there
Yeah.
buzzing and you don't forget how that feels. That's why, you could watch a band on YouTube all day long or like stream or whatever that, but if you're in the room with people and the audience is there, it's like the best high in the world. And you feel like you're not alone. You're with your community. And, as corny as that sounds, that's the buzz. That's the reason why I still really enjoy doing this, because majority of touring is not that. Majority of touring is like 15 dudes on a bus farting and burping and drinking beer and snoring. And, you're uncomfortable and you hit the rumble strip and you're waiting for the bus to crash, like all this crazy that goes through your head that, 23 hours a day or so. And then you get that 1 hour, hour and a half on stage. That's it. That's what we do it for, is that small amount of time. So from the moment we get on stage to the moment we walk away, that little time frame is the reason why we still do this, the reason why we still make records, the reason why we still go out there, leave our families, travel across the world. It's that feeling that's the best high I've ever had in my life. And it's that connection that you can't replace with anything. And I think the pandemic really taught a lot of musicians that, like, who are you without that buzz? I felt like a recovering drug addict. Like, where's my buzz? I need my people. And it was a real learning situation for me, but if nothing else, it just taught me to really appreciate what we've got and not take that for granted, even on those bad days when you're missing home and you're hungover or whatever the case may be, you're not in a good mood. You got to remind yourself you're just really fortunate to continue to do what we do. And I count my blessings with that.
And I think, you're 100% correct in that some bands are finding that lesson out right now. I discovered like tons of new bands over the pandemic, like so many bands, and I've seen a few of them live now that shows are opening up, and some of them have that spark live, some of them really have that, and other people, they just do better with the live streams. And, like, that's okay. But like, there is like, nothing better than that live experience. So even when you have a lot of live streams, a lot of, stuff that we did to, kind of overcome the pandemic, I still think that like the live show is so crucial, and that's never going away.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that, because there were bands that formed and their only reference to music was playing live streams. There are some young bands that legitimately have never played a show. and they actually got a buzz online. And then when they finally go to play that live show, it's slightly awkward because they're not used to it. So that's cool though, that we actually lived in a time where that could happen. But I think that comes with experience and wisdom, playing that live show. Once who you are as a band when you start versus who you are as a band when you've toured for like 2 or 3 years, it's a lifetime of a difference. You learn who you are, you become a better performer, you have more confidence, you learn what doesn't work, what works, what's awkward. There's so many times where I will look on YouTube, someone will send me a link and I'll watch myself and I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing there? It's like, don't do that again. Or like stay still during that part so you don't hit that note wrong. Like that all comes with wisdom. And I think it's exciting to see some of these young bands that really haven't played out live much that are going to start playing shows, playing some of those small, VFW basement shows. That's where you really cut your teeth and learn how to be a live band. And I still love going to shows like that, small clubs, punk rock bands, grindcore bands, whatever. And you can you leave there with sweat on you that's not your own. And I know that sounds gross to some people, but I can't wait till those days come back. And I'm going to be that old dude standing in the back, covered in sweat, watching that new band cut their teeth, because that's the buzz too. That's what it's all about, man.
And it's something else that's just so cool about the touring scene. And obviously, I'm on the radio. I'm not a touring musician, but I can imagine that going on the road, you just see so many different cultures and ways of life. Even just a U.S. tour. Never mind across the pond tour. And the more you pick up, you can fuse that into the music and the live shows, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I think if nothing else too, you walk away and it adds to who you are as a person and changes your worldview. I've changed completely from touring the world and spending time with people from all over. I mean, I'll never forget going to Russia, Africa, China, places that I just never thought I would make it to. And these kids know the words. And then you spend time with, the people who brought you over, the promoters, and you have a day off where you get to immerse yourself in the culture. I spent time at Buddhist temples in the mountains of Japan. We went on safari in Africa, and you're seeing these things. And granted, it's from a band's perspective, but I really make sure that I get out and immerse myself in the culture and meet the locals and be a fly on the wall at the local pub, whatever. And that stuff changed my whole worldview. It changed the way I see things. It changed my convictions, my beliefs. I grew into a man because I was able to travel. And yeah, that definitely influences your music, your lyrics, your vibe, the way you carry yourself on stage. I say, if nothing else, it's super humbling. And travel, especially for any human being, will ground you and change you in ways that staying in this little boxed view of your neighborhood and your place, which is fine for some people, but I can't imagine my life without travel. It's changed me so much, and for the better. I recommend it to anybody. Look outside of your little view. And we had that here in America, especially. We had this really interview where it's America this, America that, America this. If you get outside of the United States and you see the way we're viewed by other countries, it'll really open your eyes up to
it definitely
we got a
does.
problem in this country, man. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I remember, I think the first time I went out of America, and I told them I was American, just American. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah, we get that at borders sometimes as we're getting ready to cross into a border and they're immediately like, you guys are Americans. It's like, oh man, yes, we are. But it depends where you are. Some people love it, some people don't. But the bottom line is you got to be who you are, period. If you're representing your country, not all Americans are assholes. And that's what we've done with Killswitch, is we're nice dudes. Our crews are nice dudes. So you're going to remember that American band Killswitch, and they were easy to work with and they were nice dudes. That means a lot. Your reputation precedes you. So I'm proud to say that Killswitch has really done a good job of representing the United States across the world.
And what's so interesting is I can hear that maturity in the music. I can hear that, you're not the same person that you were. Atonement is a very different record than Self-Titled One, and it's almost night and day. But I would much rather hear the band continually evolve, in that regards.
Yeah, I think there are very few bands that can sort of stick to the same thing. And don't get me wrong, we have a signature we haven't strayed too far away from, but we've taken a little bit of dabbling in softer things, dabbling in heavy things. We still have our blend of styles, but you're right, lyrically for me, you're hearing the first self-titled, you're hearing a young, angry, confused kid who doesn't understand the world. And Atonement is very much sort of an older, wiser person with a very different perspective. And to me, I wrote a lot about inclusivity and like unity and like real struggle. Like it's one thing when you're a kid, you think you understand struggle and pain. And then as you go, move through your and again, this is dependent on who you are as a person. Because some people have a really hard life from day one. But for me, my upbringing wasn't so hard. And I had to learn a lot of things that I lacked as I grew older. So my wisdom came with a bit of sadness, disappointment, betrayal. All those things add to who you are as a lyricist and the way you see the world. So I did my best to document my life. And you can go from record to record, from Alive Just Breathing to Disarm the Descent to Incarnate. There is a narrative of life happening, and you're hearing the young kid turn into a young man, turn into a man, turn into a sort of like a, I don't know if I want to say I'm wise, but trying to apply the wisdom that I've learned over the years into the lyrics of Atonement. And I'm really proud of that record because of that. I think I really did justice to how I was feeling and how I saw the world at the time.
Mm. And you definitely absolutely should be proud of this record, because this is a record I've written reviews, I've talked about it on air so many different times, but it's a very just cohesive record, and it's like one of the most cohesive records I think I've heard in like the metal community, where like just start to finish I feel like I'm going on a journey,
Yeah.
and I that kind of does lead me to my next question. I kind of want to ask you, obviously this upcoming tour is the Atonement tour, but Atonement came out in like 2019. So is there any kind of almost disconnect when you're playing these songs live? Because you're a different person than you were 3 years ago. Is it weird to almost brush up songs that you haven't like looked at in a while?
I think it's exciting for me because when we were taken off the road, it wasn't like I was listening to Atonement. I just, it went on a shelf just like the tour did. So if nothing else, it actually reignited my love for that record because, listening back, and we're playing a good amount, I think 5 or 6 songs off that record in a set that's going to be our longest set to date. That's the most amount of songs we've ever had in a set. And with that, you're going to get old stuff that we've never played before. Is going to be opportunity to bring Howard up on stage, obviously for Signal Fire, and maybe 1 or 2 more if I can convince him. But the Atonement stuff hits different now. And I would say in a fresh way, because I think, not to pat myself in the back here, but I really strive hard to write lyrics that are broad enough that you can sort of like apply them to different phases of your life or different topics. I do my best to try to stay general enough while the passion is still there and the original intent of the song is still there. So I think these songs have grown with me. So now as I'm revisiting them and rehearsing them the past couple of weeks, it feels better than it did when I wrote the record, because to me, these songs make even more sense now. And that's just testament, I guess, to just being in a band that is cohesive and knows how to write songs. And a lot of that has to do with Adam too. I can't take credit for what I do. I write the lyrics, I've got these ideas, but Adam is really the mastermind behind what we do. He's able to craft these things. And everyone, that's the cool thing about Killswitch too, is that everyone has their job. Everyone does something. We've got our wise sage, which is Joel, and he's actually the youngest in the band, but he's the most wise. He takes a situation, diffuses it, and gives good advice. Justin comes up with the set lists and the way that things should go sonically live. Mike D's the visual, the arts. Adam's the producer, and I'm I guess the spiritual guy. And we all kind of mesh together to create Killswitch. And I think all of that is represented in Atonement. Even the way the songs, if you listen to the album from start to finish, we put those songs in that order for a reason. We still like to make records in the day of singles and EPs. Like, we're still a band that loves to put out albums. So I think that's just a testament to our synchronicity in the way that we are as a band.
And it's definitely a testament to the quality of the music too, because if every single member of the band is contributing the exact same amount, then you're all just as passionate about this project. You know what I mean? I think that when bands start to A, decrease in quality, or B, kind of start to split apart as people, is when what people are putting in more than someone else is. That's when it starts to kind of, that like imbalance in the music and the band members kind of starts to be very relevant. But with Killswitch, you're right, everything you guys do just is a team. You guys are one. You are one Killswitch Engage.
Yeah, it's not about one dude, it's about all of us for sure. And, I think moving forward, we've talked about that a lot too. Changing up the formula a little bit, and hopefully potentially writing a record together in like a house, like renting a house, which we haven't done that. And I don't even remember the last time we were all together in a room writing a song. And we're fortunate to have that sort of chemistry via email and like the way we work. But when we get into the same room, no matter what's going on, no matter how many arguments we've had or someone disagrees about something, when you get the five of us in a room together, we're all brothers at the end of the day. And it's important to maintain that because it does show in the music. It does show in the live performance. People can feel a vibe when you go see a band. And I've toured with bands that they don't give a shit about each other. They're not super good friends. They're out there, they make good music, but that vibe isn't there. And you can kind of tell. And fortunately with Killswitch, it's like one big dysfunctional family, packed into a bus, including our crew. Because to us, crew and band, there's no real separation there. We all have different jobs, but we're all one big, weird, messed up family. And I think that vibe comes off. And I think people can relate to that.
And you're right. I think that we talked about this earlier, but you guys just have fun on stage. And, the audience, the audience isn't stupid. They can understand when a band is having a genuine fun time or when they're just kind of putting on a show. And I think, bands like Killswitch Engage, Crown the Empire, Fever 333, these are all bands that like, when you see them live, it's like, it's just as fun for them on stage as it is for the audience member, it's, you guys aren't just like, all right, we're cashing our check, we're going on stage. It's like, you guys love to be there. There's nowhere else in the world you'd rather be than playing. And it shows, it definitely shows.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think when you start losing that, you gotta reconsider why you're still doing it. And if it is just a paycheck, that will eventually catch up to you as a person. I think that when that time comes for me, I'm gonna have to bow out because make way for all those energetic young bands that could probably do it better than we do. That's the other thing too. You got to realize as a performer, either you stay on top of it with your skills, either you stay in touch with the spirit and soul of what you did, or you're just going to be obsolete. And I think it's important to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening. And I do. And I see there are kids like 12 years old that could probably do my job better, especially like as they get older and they hone their skills, because that's it too. It's not just your skills, it's how you interact with people. So it should be interesting to see these like virtuoso, the people who can play guitar, like incredible, drums incredible, and they're just kids, who they're going to become when they start performing live. And to me, like as an older dude, that excites me. I'm excited to see what's going to happen in metal and hardcore and punk with this younger generation. And I also think it's just good to stay humble and realize that, we're fortunate to still do what we do, man. And the fact that people still care. So that gratitude, it spills over live. It can't not,
Yeah.
As soon as I get out on stage and I see all those people that paid money to be there, that got babysitters for the kids to be there, that are spending their hard-earned money to be there, like you got to give it your all or just get off stage. Like, what are you doing there?
Yeah. And I'm also so excited, especially in like the next 10 years to see kind of what's happening with metal and rock, because like, when you guys started out as Killswitch in the early 2000s, there was no like metal screaming coaches. No one like taught you how to scream, like now there's like so many of them, like it's like, the culture around metal is so different now. It's so much more accepted and loved than it was, even like 2 decades ago. So yeah, there's just so many more opportunities.
Yeah, and I think that is a beautiful thing, but I also think it's something that could potentially, as with anything, water certain things down. And there are people out there who can play the part of the metal singer, that can sound a certain way through vocal fry, but if you don't have the conviction and the passion, that's something you really can't teach. So it is going to be interesting to see the sheer skill that I'm seeing in younger people. The fact that I can go on Instagram right now and watch like an 8-year-old kid do a vocal fry scream that sounds pretty decent, whereas when we were kids, when I first started out, you were damaging the out of yourself to get that noise. It's like there wasn't, and I did for most of my career, like because I'm old school up until recently, where I've adapted vocal fry to help calm the inflammation and swelling. And that's the big thing about it too. You look at someone like George from, that dude is doing full on one of the hardest vocal styles that you could easily damage your voice. And that dude does an hour and a half set. He does it every night. He's a beast. He's amazing. myself, I go to do that and it causes damage. And, I had vocal surgery in 2018, and I started to the techniques finally started to catch up with me. And I realized how, if I want to continue doing this, I got to learn how to do it. So it's really interesting to see, and the fact that I'm still doing it. I was rehearsing the other night and hitting these screams and stuff that I could never do years ago with the old technique, and just kind of having my mind blown. Like, metal I feel like is just getting started. What we can do with the voice, people are realizing there's so much you can do. And with the techniques that we have, you can do it for a long time. You can have longevity. I mean, look at Matt Heafy from Trivium. That dude is on the internet every single day, like every day, playing, warming up, showing people how it's done. Like, that guy's a madman. I don't know how he has the energy to do that, but he's case in point for somebody who lost his voice, switched his technique completely, and found a way to make it work for him, where he's showing people that you can come back from damage. You can come back, like me. You can come back from a vocal surgery and continue on, because of the wisdom that we now have with what we do in our culture and our community. Cared enough. People like Melissa Cross, who I will say is the one that really started to change everything. And her story is powerful. She lost her voice and learned, because she just needed to learn how to do it again. So her research and everything that she did paved the way for all these younger people now who are doing screaming lessons and whatever. Her story, if you guys listening don't know Melissa Cross, Zen of Screaming, do yourself a big favor and check out what she does. And her whole story is nuts. But yeah, I'm getting a little off trail here, but I'm super grateful I still get to do it. And I'm also excited to see what the future holds for our community, whether it's metal, hardcore, or punk, because I feel like we're just getting started, man.
Absolutely. And huge shout out to Melissa Cross. If anybody doesn't know them or is watching this interview and hasn't heard of her, WSU actually conducted an interview with her about a year ago. It's on our YouTube now and our website. You guys can find it there. She is one of the nicest people I think I've ever met in my entire life. I absolutely love her. But I got one more question for you today. I'm sure you know this question's coming, as I'm sure you get this probably the most amount of. This question has probably been asked to you hundreds, if not thousands of times. A new Killswitch Engage album. When can we expect it? Is it in the process? Are you writing? Are you recording? What can we expect?
As far as I know, and the way that this band works is all four of those guys who hold the instruments come up with demos and riffs or parts of songs. And that process has begun, as far as I know, because we did have a meeting about it on the Slipknot tour. So the idea was, and this all depends on where touring goes, and we do have plans for other tours through the summer, at the end of the year. So depending on where the world is and we have access to what countries, we could potentially be touring on Atonement for this year, for the most part, trying to make up for lost time. But there was discussion of at least starting to demo and get the ideas together for our new record this year. But again, we don't know what the world's going to hand us. It's such weird, uncertain times, but I know the wheels have started to turn as far as getting a concept and an idea, and to get the guys start to write parts and stuff like that. So only time will tell. I wouldn't expect it to be coming out this year, but at least the ideas and the writing and the demos will start this year.
Well, you can be sure that we'll play whatever new music you guys have coming out on WSOU. Jesse, thank you so much again for talking with us today. We really appreciate it. Again, you're going on tour with August Burns Red and Light the Torch. For all of our New Jersey and New York listeners, you guys are coming to Terminal 5 in New York City on February 8th. You're not going to want to miss out on that. Thank you so much again, Jesse.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you to WSOU for just so many years from the jump, supporting metal and being that, lone signal as you drive through New York and New Jersey that you can hear that represents our culture and our community. And I always am honored to do anything for WSOU. I love you guys. Thank you for all the support you've done for us as a band and for all of the bands. Definitely big gratitude and big thank you. All hails. And thanks for the interview, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Seriously, it was my pleasure.